All right, so the next thing we have to do is get it all lined up on the walls and figure out some exact specifications. We've been doing this all eyeballing, and honestly, you probably would have had this from the game where they would have used 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. But let's figure out how big our wall is before we go any further, just so we have some kind of calculation. We want to keep it even. What else I have to do is put that snap back. So let me put the snap back on here one more time. Effect pivot point. I'm going to turn on my snap tool, not my snap, but my pivot point. And I'm going to want to be like right there, because that's the edge of the wall. This is just filler, so I have something behind it. I'm going to grab it and just snap. And it should snap exactly to that one right there. And that's what we want. And if we look at it and make sure effect pivot point, and we're going to make sure it's aligned to the world, which it didn't change, should be fine. Then we're going to want to, one more time, reset X form, and then convert it to an editable poly. Okay, so now we have our wall all set up. Let's figure out exactly how big it is. So when we start putting it together, we have numbers that'll snap together inside of Unity. This is just so when we go into Unity, much easier to deal with than quarters and all this other stuff. So what we'll do is I'll just make a box real quick. Actually, let me pull everything up. Turn the snap off here. Let me pull everything into isolation here. The one thing I did notice, I already looked into this. This floor is almost 1 1/4 wide, and I think we're going to keep that. It's a little bit more, but we're going to make it a 1 1/4 when we do our final floor. So that's good. The thing you'll see with this wall, let me hide. Let me grab this. Is this wall is when we do it in front view, and we do this. Like that, and we'll just say the height I'm not worried about, because we've decided the height by the way it looks in the game more than anything else. I'm going to say 0, 0, 0 on the bottom here. Oh no, yeah, that's right. So we want width. So if we look at the width on this, and that's funny. Oh, this one, yeah. This one's like 200. Closer to 200 than anything else. I'm going to say like 10 on this here. So, that said, let's do 5 here and like 100 here. Okay. I'll do this much then. I'll just do it by eyeball. The big thing that we want to do is get these sides exactly right. So I'm going to make these 200, and if you can guess, it's not that hard to do. We just want to make sure we get it set up. So front, and we'll take these verts and we'll just move them over, and we can zoom in if you want. You can do snap on it too. Snap's a little bit tricky on this one because there's a bunch of parts and I'm not really measuring the wall. I suggest you do it with snapping and then making them snap down here to the bottom. But like I said, I don't have the wall perfect height and everything, so I'm just trying to get a better feel for it. And the closer you are when you do this, by the way, I should tell you, the better it's going to be when you're trying to assemble it inside of Unity. So I'm just doing it the old way, grabbing it and zooming it in, and then there. Come to the other side. Do the same thing, make sure, grabbed, zoom on in, okay, to that part right there, and just drag it, zoom on in here. That's as far as I can zoom in. So if I can get this lined up like that, it's going to be within the millimeter of distance. Okay, so we've got 200, which is 2 yards, or 2 meters, I'm sorry, 2 meters. So we have 200 centimeters, it's 2 meters, it's exactly what we want. Because our floor tiles are going to be 1.25 meters, so a little bit wider, and then by 1 maybe. Actually, we'll do 200 for them too, so they match the length. We could do either way, and we'll talk about that when we get to the floor on Tuesday. So we just want to make sure that our wall is set up in a clean fashion. So if we come here, and I want to make sure you understand that this is your master. That's why it's named. Well, it should be named. Let's see, what am I going to name this? It's going to be, you want to name it what it is first, so wall, then you go underscore, and then the scale of the wall, in this case we're going to say medium. It may be the only one, but we're going to say medium, and then we're going to say underscore master. Every other wall you build after this will be 01, 02, 03, 04, but this is your master wall, okay? So what we're going to do is duplicate it, and we can either just move a copy over, or let me make sure one thing here. Let's go 0, 0, 0. Yeah. So let me copy this over so we have this out of the way, and then I'm going to change the name of this one to corner 1, or corner N, and we're going to call this master. We're just making all our masterpieces right now. Our final ones, we'll do the measurements on them pretty quick when we get it into assembling everything together, and then we'll be able to make a little bit of changes with some of the stuff we're doing here. But let me show you how easy it is to make your corners. And I thought about this, and it's been a while since I've done it. Like I said, I used to do architecture, and I used to do this all the time, but it totally spaced, and I went back and dug it up, and there's nobody out there who even brings this up for doing corners. So the way I do corners is I could measure it out, I could build another wall, I could weld them together and everything like that, but we have a tool, an amazing tool, and you want to keep your pivot point, by the way, in the same exact spot. But we have an amazing tool that is called symmetry, right? And well, what does that do? How does that help? Well, what symmetry will do is if I do the flip on it here and I pull it over, oops, and I take this symmetry, I go inside of the sub-object of the symmetry and I pull it over, you can see I get the wall, right? I can also do, and let me turn this way down again. Here, I'm going to say 0 for now. We can weld it later. I'm going to say rotation on this one, and then I'm going to rotate that plank. And by the way, make sure you have your snap rotation on, which is A. Here's a shortcut, but it's right up there. I'm going to say this is this is your corner in, so I'm going to rotate it towards the wall like it's a door. And if I just go to, and you can look at the bottom, well, that's too many. That's interesting. Well, I guess 45 is what we want then. So you go to 45, you get a 90-degree angle. And look, it's perfectly lined up. It's perfectly everything you want. Okay? You can't get any easier than that. And if you look, all your walls are still perfect. There's no changes to anything. So then what? Well, now we got to make our corners. That's like if we go inside the corner, we got to make our corners out. So we're going to take one more of these. We're going to drag it over here. And I'm not even going to get rid of the symmetry yet. I'm going to say wall master corner out. I could say convex and whatever, but out. And then master. And I'll say okay. And now I'm going to take that rotation tool again and I'm going to go 90. Oops. Make sure I'm in the sub-object mode. 90 in the other direction. And I will get my other corner. Okay. Now I can convert them. Make sure they're from the 90 degrees at the top here. Perfect. Convert. Grab this one. Perfect. Convert. And now I've got all the wall assets I need. They aren't sized and perfectly scaled. So when I get in here, if I find out these are, I'm pretty sure these are too long. The other thing, I'm pretty sure these are too long. That's fine. We'll deal with it. But for now, this is perfect because we have all the pieces. What we'll probably end up doing is taking like as little of we're going to want to have as small of pieces as we can. We're going to probably want it like this and like this. And obviously if we had a completely perfectly measured piece, we'd know exactly how to do each one, but we'll just have to do it after the fact. I have a feeling we're going to try and do these at 1/4 of a meter, so 25 centimeters instead of 100 centimeters. Anyway, so then I would be able to put them in there. And since I don't have to worry about them, what would happen, how I would use these is I'd take this one, and since the snap is on, I can turn the snap on. Wait, did you lose your snap? You lost your pivot point, you weirdo. Your pivot point's wrong too. How did that happen? Wow. Okay. So I got to reset my pivot point real quick here. Reset, effect pivot point. I'm not going to rebuild the other ones. I'll just reset my pivot point. And this happens, so I want you to get used to thinking that way. So I turn my snap back on, and then I'll just, oops, that's not on. Snap. I'll snap it to that. Make sure it's on the bottom. Maybe I was on the, not on the bottom. There we go. Turn off the effect pivot point. I'll come to this one. I'll do the same thing. And I will say effect pivot point and snap to that one. And then this one, I probably want to keep it in this position. And I don't care where you put the snap. If you put it on the corner on this side or that side, I would suggest you keep it in the same direction. So if this snaps towards the front because the wall's facing that way, then I would do the same thing. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to take that, go to my effect pivot point, and just snap it. Snap it right where it needs to be. Okay. So the idea is now that they're all set, and I might as well just reset all X forms. So I'll come over here, turn off my snap, and say reset X form, turn off that, and say convert to editable poly. Now I've got them back. And they all have their snaps in the right spot. Okay. So what I do is I grab, not that, grab this one, turn my snap, grab it from that pivot point, and just snap it. I don't even have to grab the pivot point at this point, but when you put it in the engine, it's going to be much better if you do. And then this one, I probably would rotate. Maybe you would make 2 corners. I'm okay with you making 2 corners. In the game engine, you're probably just going to invert them, but we'll take a look at that. Depending on the engine and Unreal, it's easier to do, I think. But so what we'll do is, in this case, I will mirror it just to make our lives easier. And mirroring it is like symmetry, but without making a copy unless we tell it to. By default, it just mirrors the object. Okay, now the pivot point's kind of on the wrong side, but all right. So anyway, probably what would happen is this would get placed first, and then I'd take both of these and snap them to there. So now I've got this perfect wall system that has the 2 pieces I need. Okay, and some of them are going to be, we're going to have unique pieces. So let's open up into isolation here. Let's open up everything we have, and I'm going to move all this stuff over real quick. So we have all this stuff. So yeah, what we're going to end up doing is putting this all together next week. So what you need to do this weekend is this piece, and again, you don't have to shrink it yet. You can wait till we get to there. Oh, I was talking about unique pieces. So unique pieces, like we aren't going to have one of these perfect doorways or anything that fits in where a door frame is, because the door frame has a big cut at the bottom of it, so that door, so the floorboards don't match. And sometimes, and usually, they have a door frame that goes around the outside of it. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. But for now, what I need you to build is do this, get this measured correctly, get it all cleaned up, build your in and out corners, and then finish building as many of the things as you can for this week. Now let's just say, let's build a cabinet and this dresser, and that's fine. Yeah, let's just do the cabinet and the dresser, and I'll put it in the homework. You've got the lamp, you've got the block out, you've got the walls, the cabinet and the dresser should be good. So we'll have all of this. And then next week we'll start on the ground and finishing up everything else so we can get it straight into the game. And the window. So we have the window left, we have the ground left, and then we have the doohickeys, which we may or may not get into, but we have time as we see how far we get. And a plant, something I'd love to teach you, but I want to make sure we get everything in and lit inside of Unity before we dance with that. So yeah.